Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Downtime with Downstar, episode 216. And today we are here with John Ludwick Jr. Did I say it right?
You got it, man. You got it. First go, and then you cleared it right up.
I love it, bro. So you made the trip all the way from New Hampshire just to podcast with us.
That's it, man.
I love it.
Been up for 30 hours and haven't slept yet.
So before we get started, man, just give us a quick, brief summary of who you are and what you do.
Man,
I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. I know, and I'm guilty of asking those same loaded questions to other people, and I know what I'm getting myself into. Man, I do a handful of things, but my day-to-day routine is I own a laser cutting and laser engraving business called Night Lazer.
Very cool.
And so that's kind of, for the last 6 years now, been my day job.
Yeah. Sole
proprietor type deal, just a one-man operation in New Hampshire. But I'm in the cars. That's like my main thing.
Yeah.
I'm real close with my father, and it started from him. I've got that similar story without digging too deep into that right now. Mm-hmm. I've got that typical story of dad was into muscle cars and I got into cars. And so that's my main hobby, but it kind of turned into a job of sorts, buy a car, modify it, have fun with it, take it to some shows, sell it, make some money, put it in another project.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect. I'm a musician, so I've got a recording studio at home, and I like writing like soundtrack style music. So
you touch all spectrums.
Yeah, kind of. It's basically because I get bored easily and I've got a lot of ADD. So I don't have like one particular answer for that question. It's just
that's good though.
I do a handful of things. Yeah.
That's good. Have you ever been diagnosed with ADD?
Yeah, when I was in 8th grade or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they put you through those tests where you got to draw a figure 8 on the chalkboard, and you got to call out which way your hand is going, like left or right.
Uh-huh.
And then the teacher will tell you to switch. So you're going, you can't. How can you do that? Left, right, and then they go switch, and you got to be on the ball.
Well, how do you tell the alphabet backwards?
I don't know.
Do you know it?
Z, Y, X.
I'm sober
W.
as a sober right now. I can never do it backwards. Dude. It's crazy.
And so the teacher was like, he's got ADD. And basically the dynamic between my parents were, my mom was like, well, what can we do to help? And they're like, we can give him Ritalin. And my dad's like, he don't need no medication. He'll be fine. So
that's it.
But that's kind of, in a nutshell, why I bite off more than I can chew.
Yeah, I say that because I might have something of that as well, dude. I can never stop, and I can never leave well enough alone.
But I think that's important for people who, clearly you've stepped. We just met each other 10 minutes ago, but it's clear already just by getting the tour through here that, you kind of, you can't sit still. You go after it, and it works. I've started a podcast too, and I feel like I've got my own umbrella, and I'm cramming too much stuff under it.
Yeah,
it works. It works with everything else I'm doing, and then they don't make any more time in a day.
Yeah,
and that's the hardest part, I guess.
Yeah, I love that, dude. The umbrella. That's exactly what we're doing here. Downstar is the umbrella, and everything else under it is just things that I consider fun.
Exactly.
And I want to
you can label it.
Yeah,
and kind of make it the same entity. Which is
really
cool.
No, definitely, man. And that's something that like an entrepreneur, you really don't understand that until you jump into it. And you're like, well, if I like skateboarding and I already have this business that's going, but it's totally something different, I can probably mix it in somehow.
Right.
And then you just start to figure out, like, once you're skating, then everybody in the car industry is like, oh yeah, I used to skate too. Like, okay, let's mix it all together.
Yeah. So it's funny because even just last night, a friend of mine's girlfriend was like, so are you an entrepreneur? And I was like, I hate that word, but if you define it as that, you can't sit still. Just try to make your hobbies a job, or a business in a way. So I guess by default, that's what we are. Have
you just recently started to hate the word, or it's always been something?
I think Instagram made me hate it.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like, I don't know. It's like it's like a trendy thing now. Yeah. Where it's like people watch a bunch of Gary Vee videos and they're like, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. Because I went into my basement
went to the yard
and sold
sale.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It's like, man, I don't know. Like, I am what I am. I won't label it. If someone's like, it sounds like you're an entrepreneur, I'm like, okay.
I like to be called a hustler, dude.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Take nothing and make it something.
That's it. It's not gonna show up on your doorstep.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You're not gonna sit down and watch it come to you.
So the reason that we got here is from Christian from Can I Beat?
Mr. Loza.
This is why I love this guy, right? He texted me yesterday, and he texted me about you, and he said, hey, my buddy's coming into town. You should check him out. Maybe you guys could podcast or something. I'm like, all right, let me check him out. And I looked, and I was like, yeah, I'm down for it, you know?
Yeah.
So then I hit him up, and then I text you text me this morning, and we made it happen, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we haven't even been informed of each other for the last 24 hours.
Exactly.
And I love it, bro.
This is awesome. Yeah.
And I
I
love
just
it,
drove
man.
an hour and a half here from like San Fernando area. But like I said, when I first came in here, like took 126 through the mountains, through the valley at sunset, watching the sunset as I'm coming up to the ocean. Like I'm from New Hampshire. I've been here a lot, but we've got like snow on the ground back home. So this was just the drive here was just, this wasn't planned until probably 2 hours ago.
I love it,
because I was like, I don't know what the plan is today, and some stuff fell through, and now we're here. So
I love it, bro.
I'm all about the spontaneity of all of it. So.
It's gonna be a great one, and it's gonna drop on Monday too.
Oh, cool!
Quick, man.
Talking about hustling.
Yeah. So, what brings you into California?
So, so the last month now, I've been trying to find an excuse to get out here and either drive out here or drive back, and without going into too much detail, this time last year, early September last year, I had a UK market right-hand drive E23 BMW 7 Series that I like went through the whole thing. It was in Performance BMW magazine, Fast Car magazine featured it. It was kind of like it was a full project I had going
What
on.
year is that?
81.
Okay.
So this was the last of the shark nose BMWs where the front grille came to like a point.
Yes.
That's why they called it like a shark nose. Like it had these extreme angles to the kidney grille in the front. The E23 had a facelift model shortly after my 81 where they did away with the shark nose. Same chassis car, but they gave it like a full plastic grille in the front and rounded the front off, and still a beautiful car, but it didn't have that shark nose like vintage BMW look. This was in Cypress Green, which was a color we didn't get here in the States. I searched all of Europe and found a full original BBS body kit for it, which was super rare for the 7 Series because it's a big flagship car. Not everybody saved the motorsport stuff of those cars. But anyway, long story short, a gentleman here in Los Angeles, or down in Los Angeles, was purchasing it. And he had purchased a car off me the year prior. And the car that I sold him the year prior, I just shipped out to him. And I said, if it's all the same to you, I'd like to drive this one out to you. And he was just like, whatever. Because that car, it's BMW's flagship. It was a manual car too, which was kind of rare because it was a fully optioned 7 Series with all the frills, which is normally an automatic, because nobody wants to shift gears. But the guy that bought the car new ordered it with a 5-speed manual with all the options. And so it was just a fun car to drive. And I always talked about wanting to drive it coast to coast in my ownership. So here's the perfect opportunity. The guy in LA wanted to sell it. And so two buddies of mine and my buddy Kyron Burnt, who shoots for Speed Hunters, came on the trip, and we did the whole thing for Speed Hunters as well. And drove out. And I've got an automotive brand called the Governor's Club, and we can go into that later too. But basically what I did was every city along the way, we did Governor's Club pop-up meets. So we tried to make it fun and a little bit more interactive with people along the way. So with my laser engraving business, I made these genuine leather key rings that said like 2019 Governor's Club Tour Across America. And I had shirts made and we did some key rings. So these were available at all of our pop-up meets. And so we did the trip out and delivered the car. And to add, and we're going to come full circle. I'm real good at bunny trailing, but we're coming full circle to why I'm here now. And from LA, I flew to Seattle and picked up one of my all-time bucket list dream cars, which was the extended wheelbase, one of 430 ever built Toyota Centuries. So I've got the long wheelbase Toyota Century. And again, long story short, that car was Japan's flagship. The Imperial family rode in that car, members of the Yakuza. The Century was never available outside of Japan from the get-go in 1967. That was like Japan's only car. Toyota's
Does the
flagship.
door open by itself?
No, not the old ones. The new ones maybe do or something. But I picked that car up that had just come in like a year prior to Seattle, and we drove that from Seattle 3,200 miles clear across America home, doing the same thing on the way home. We did pop-up meets in the north. We did Seattle, Montana, Wyoming, Omaha, Chicago, Buffalo, Boston, on the way home. Wow. So I suffer from wanderlust. Like I always like being on the road. So with this year being the year of COVID and the pandemic, and everybody's kind of we haven't been traveling like we want to or whatever. coming into this fall, I was like, I really want to hit the road again. So coming back full circle, I wanted to do some sort of trip with my podcast too. I wanted to bring my podcast gear. It's like a mobile style setup. And what happened was a buddy of mine out here has a first generation Q45, the G50, which is the Nissan President in Japan. And I've owned one of those before and I love the car. And he said, we worked out a deal for the car and he goes, why don't you just fly here and we'll drive it back to New Hampshire. Now we're like kind of under snow and salt and sleet, and as is most of the Midwest and Northeast and all that stuff now at this point in the year. But what we decided to do is, since he rides BMX, I ride BMX. We can also get into that at some point too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But we're a couple of washed up pros. And what we decided to do was not only just drive this vintage Q45, across America home to New Hampshire, where I'll then, it'll become one of my projects. I'll either bag it or do suspension and wheels. Something subtle, just a nice cruiser car, and then sell it. So already I'm trying to like hype that up as part of the story, where it's like the car will be available to one of you guys, when I'm done with it, type deal. But we're going to do a skate park tour as well. So it's, I'd say old timers, but old timers for the sport.
Yeah.
Because kids at 10 years old are now. But we're going to do a skate park tour heading east. And so it's just something that we're going to document. And that's why I'm here this time. We're going to hit the road on Monday and try to get it done before Thanksgiving, as long as the car cooperates and everything goes swimmingly on the road.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All of this stuff that you're saying right now is crazy. It's fucking awesome, dude. I wish I could go with you.
So we should add a few more cars to the list. Yeah, because when we drove the Century back home last year, I mean, the extended wheelbase Century, and I still own that car. It's a car I searched the world for like 8 years, 10 years maybe, off and on. Like if I sold a project car and I had some money for a new project, I'd make a hard push to find a Century, a long wheelbase one. So the long wheelbase ones, like I said, they only built a few hundred of. So those are the real hard ones to find. But boy, oh boy, was that car a comfortable car to drive cross country.
Very cool.
Because it's got the extended wheelbase on the back seat. Basically, the owner sits in the back seat of that car, reclining, massaging rear seats. You've got fold out desks. You've got a electric partition window, electric curtains.
Wow.
You've got heated and chilled cup holders. This is 91 too, by
That's
the way.
insane.
Mine's a 91. It's got the ice box, ice maker, 2 TVs, VCR, audio recorder. It's got like so much technology, and it's got fiber optic lighting and auto dimming headlights, and it's got a 4-liter V8, a Hemi V8 that they designed just for that car. So it's like this really cool Toyota Hemi V8 that they put in that thing, and it's a really cool car. But driving that thing cross country was super, super comfortable.
What did that retail for?
Boy, it was in the 6 figures. That extended wheelbase car. Yeah, and I don't know for sure. So I've always wanted to know. There's some like speculative numbers on the internet. There's more information about the short wheelbase cars because they built that car from 67 to 97 and hardly changed the body.
Yeah.
So that car stayed relatively looking the exact same for a 30-year production span. But the last 7 years of that production span is when they started making an extended wheelbase.
Gotcha.
Just a few a year that ultimately rounded out to like 430 or something. So the extended wheelbase ones were like cars almost like the Ferrari F40, where you almost had to like be somebody at the beginning to be able to buy one. They weren't at the Toyota lots or whatever. So you kind of had to be like some business CEO or a member of the Yakuza or a member of the Imperial family or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a motorcade, like luxury car. So I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it was a 6-figure car in the 90s.
Dude, very cool, man. I like gained a appreciation for the technology and the comfort. In January, we went to Auto Salon. And,
cool. That's been a bucket list thing.
Oh, dude, you got to go, bro.
Man,
it's so amazing. And we were actually hanging out with some Speed Hunter guys with Ben. And,
I know Ben and Mark.
And Mark, yeah.
Yep,
so we were hanging out
Ryan
with them.
Stewart.
And we were with my buddy Robbie and from CSF.
Okay.
Yep. He knows them.
Yep.
And Robbie's like, hey, you want to go hang out with my guys? All right, cool. And we go there, and then they're in a Rolls-Royce Phantom.
Yes.
I was like, oh, man, I've never been in one before.
Did it have the celestial headliner?
Oh, dude.
Those things are nuts.
Bro, once we get into that car, dude, that changed my mind. After that, like, my dream car was always just like a Ferrari Lambo or something. After I got in that, I was like, I want a Rolls Royce, dude.
It's a whole new world.
I'm getting a Rolls Royce, bro.
It's a small world too, man. Because I go to England every summer for the Players Classic show. My friend Jay and Carl put that show on.
Yeah.
And Ben, Ryan Stewart, all the Scene Media boys are there because they're basically the Speed Hunters guys now.
Yeah.
And And yeah, good dudes.
Hell yeah.
Ryan
dude.
Stewart's brother actually works at CSF, and yeah, it's a small family out there. So
it
really
is,
cool.
man. This automotive community is tiny.
It's tiny.
Dude. It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, yeah, we know Christian. We clearly know the Scene Media boys. Yeah. It's a small world. Yeah, it's a small world.
So yeah, like I was saying with Christian, bro, he's the reason I'm even doing the podcast, because I was on his podcast probably around June-ish 2018.
Yep.
And he came to the shop. We did it right here, and he brought his whole studio in his backpack.
Right.
You know, so before that, podcasting to me was this.
A studio.
And I didn't have this. I didn't know how to even get to this. But then
Right.
he came and he did it. And then once the episode was up, I was like, wait, that's all it was, dude? He's like, yeah. So he gave me his whole list of everything to buy. I bought it, and I was just like, dude, I'm going to start podcasting.
That's awesome.
And I just never looked back ever since then, dude.
You know what's crazy is I have the same exact story. So, and I wish, and I know Christian's busy. Life gets in the way a lot. I wish he was like still. I wish he was pumping them out like once a
Yeah.
week. You know, it gets hard. I mean, I'm a month right now without getting one out, and we can talk about that too because I had a lot of really cool stuff going on with the Century. But
Yeah.
But it was the same deal. He had me. I was his second episode, and it was during First Class Fitment 2017. So we literally set up in the hotel the day before the show at First Class, and I had listened to podcasts. I wasn't that really into it. I'm a musician myself, so I like listening to music. If I'm on a long drive, I didn't really want to listen to somebody talk. But I'm a history nerd, and I like listening to like technical stuff. I like engineering. I like all that sort of stuff. So it was easy for me to listen to podcasts when I did listen to them. And then same deal. Christian asked if I wanted to be on his podcast, and he'd only done, I think Nick Kraft from Maryland was like the first one, and then I was the second one. And so he was still trying to find his rhythm too. I'd never been on a podcast before. And then after that, I really started like listening to more podcasts, and same deal. I thought, man, like I'm always the chatterbox in my friend group. I'm always telling stories, and I'm always getting really into stories, and I'm always like asking people like what they think about certain things. And, and that's a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, like you're standing in a parking lot at a car meet with like 20 people and you're just telling stories. Yeah, that's a podcast. So same deal. I did Christians, and I was like, the gear started turning after that. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that's a big shout out to Christian, because we're both doing podcasts now because of him.
Yeah, man. And, you know, that says a lot about him as well, because the information that he had to gather to find out what mics, what recorder, what everything, he did a lot of research on that. And for him to just be able to hand that over to me and just kind of give me the blueprint of it, dude, I appreciate that so much. And even to this day, like just the alley-oop to have you come on.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, there's not that many people like that in this industry.
Right.
You know, everybody wants to just hold it to themselves, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like the more that you put out there, the more that will come back to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it reciprocates, you know, like it's not like you're sharing information. You're just like existing in the community. You know? Yeah. I mean, it's awesome.
So let's talk about your podcast. What's the name of it?
Right now it's called Purpose and Passion. The Purpose and Passion podcast. And I say right now only because I've been considering lately changing it to like my name. And I hate the idea of that. I don't want it to seem vain. I hate the idea of self-promotion. I don't like that, but I always struggle with names. Like I just like names of bands I've been in, or names of businesses or projects or brands or whatever. And I always second guess it. Once you launch, I'm like, no, I don't like that name. And so I struggle with that a lot. But the one thing that'll always remain constant is my last name.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, to most other people who don't know my last name or ever speak it much, it'll just sound like, you know, the Ludwick podcast or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't hear it like that because it's my last name. But as of right now, any episodes that are currently up on, you know, YouTube and Spotify and iTunes, etc., is the Purpose and Passion podcast. But yeah, I'm in the middle of this weird echo chamber right now of like trying to like figure out if I want to change the name or not.
Well, your name is very unique, dude. If this was the Frank Garcia podcast, I don't know.
That's got a good ring to it.
That could be in this area here. That could be 1,000 people's podcast.
Yeah. So okay. I get it.
It can't be that, dude.
Yeah, I get that. I guess. Yeah.
So, what is your vision for the podcast? Is it just a fun project, or?
Yeah, it started as that. Because basically I understood that I was the guy in like my friend group and beyond that was always like talking about stories and because I have like the itch to travel all the time, I feel like I've got stories upon stories.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And in my time riding BMX professional years ago, I was traveling full time with that. So I just wanted to, I didn't want to do all the talking, although I knew that solo episodes or whatever, it was going to turn into that at some point or another, here and there at least. But I always wanted to lift up and promote my friends that I felt like were like really interesting or smart or both. And that was kind of the beginning of it, was to not self-promote. Yeah, to fit it under that umbrella we were talking about, fit it under the umbrella of like the YouTube channel that I just started. And like, I feel like I'm late to all of this stuff. But in 2020 was the beginning of the podcast. And then we were 3 months in and everything stopped this year. So it's been a tough year to do all that stuff. But the overall vision was to basically, while I travel anyway, might as well bring podcast gear and record conversations with good friends of mine. And that's it. Not really have any sort of real agenda. Just the whole idea of the name Purpose and Passion was to just like talk to my friends who do what they love.
Yeah.
And inspire others, And I'm sure you understand it too, even just from Instagram. I mean, it's crazy the amount of people I'll hear from that are just like, you inspired me to do that. And all they did was see a photo of like one of your cars.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
how?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that it reached somebody and spoke to them in a certain way and motivated them to start working Saturdays to save up more money so they could afford the expensive coilovers in their car or something, and that resonates with me. I'm like, wow, that's got power to it. So that's been like the motivating factor for me to like keep doing the podcast and just kind of continue to do things. Cause it's a very good feeling bringing value to people's lives,
All right, guys, hope you're enjoying the episode. Look who is here. C2's in the building. C2. Big shout out to our sponsor, Heel Toe Auto. What do you think about them?
Pretty dope.
Pretty dope, huh? You know what about Heel Toe, dude? An important part in buying Honda parts online is making sure that you can trust the company that you're dealing with to get you the right parts reliably. You spend a lot of money and a lot of time researching your build. The last thing that you want to do is send cash to a website where you may never see it, or worse yet, never get the parts. Dude, what if you sent money to a website and you just never got the parts? What would you do?
Oh my god, I'd freak out, bro.
Would you be heated?
Yeah, I'd be pretty mad.
Well, that's why you need to shop with Heel Toe, man, because with Heel Toe Automotive, an 18-year history and track record is part of the deal. Heel Toe brings you deep industry connections, professional part recommendations, alternative ideas when your parts aren't available, and they'll even contact you when something on your order looks out of the ordinary. What if they did that, bro? If you called somewhere and you placed an order, and then they're like, hey, Christian, are you sure you want this? It doesn't work with that. Like, oh, thank you, man, right?
Yeah.
That's what we call the homie hookup.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool, huh? So Heel Toe's unique checkout allows you to select a deadline to receive your parts to make sure that you can get them in time for your project plans. You can buy parts anywhere online, but Heel Toe knows what matters to an enthusiast: professionalism, swiftness, and accuracy. Heel Toe is in your corner, dude. Call them up right now, bro. 949-295-1668, or check them out on their website at
HeelToe.com.
Close, bro. HeelToeAuto.com. Check them out, or you could check them out on Instagram at Heel Toe Automotive. Now, back to the show. Yeah, I could definitely agree with that, man. With all the negativity around social media, there is immense positivity to it as well. You know, just me being inspired. I was following an Instagram. I forget the name right now, but what they do is like miniature art. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah, like the cars?
No. This is like street art. So basically, they'll see like a building, a liquor store with graffiti or something like that, and he'll actually build a small scale of it.
Oh, cool.
And his thing is, he's with the camera with the small details, backs up all the way, and it's the full the real version right
so
there.
He sets it up in front of the
exactly.
Wow,
So
that's cool.
After seeing that, like, I'm, as you can see with the car, I'm like super into attention to detail.
Yep.
So I'm like, dude, this is something that I want to get into. You know, I want to get it. This is like, has nothing to do with cars, nothing to do with anything, but it's just like, I seen this and I got inspired. I'm like, I even DM'd the guy. I'm like, dude, you inspired me. I'm going to get down on
this. That's awesome.
I invited him on the podcast too. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it It's
Is he from around here?
I don't even know, but he said he doesn't speak very good English.
Oh, okay.
But either way, I'm always inviting everybody on the podcast. I just want to talk.
I'm
to
the
everybody.
same way, man. I'm the same way, and I hope that half the people I have on like can take the reins. Because I get it. There's some people that have never done this, and it's hard for them. They get focused on the cameras and the microphones and their proximity to the microphone, and they're like, oh, "What am I doing with my hands?" Like, and then they're not focused on just talking and hanging out. And but some of my friends are either naturally good at that, or they've kind of like been seasoned with other podcasts or whatever. And I love that. I just like turn the mic on and be like, "Go, man!" Like, the least amount of talking I can do, the better, because this is to like, you're here for a reason type deal.
Yeah, dude. So some of the best podcasts that I do are with my wife, my best friend, my cousins, because it's like the most real conversation that you could get, and that's just what people are they're craving right now.
Well, and that's the crazy thing to me is you forget, like, I undervalue any sort of content that I can create or put out all the time, whether or not it's like my music or just like a product or whatever. I'm like, just because I think like no one would want to hear that or see that or buy that doesn't mean that or just the fact that I don't think that doesn't mean that a lot of people out there wouldn't. So yeah, like when I just a few like just some solo podcast episodes where I'm just like talking about one of my car projects or something, I'm just like, this is redundant. Like, am I even making sense? Is my voice too monotone? What's going on? Like, does anyone even care about this?
Yeah.
And then I'll post it anyway. And then I'll get some people on Instagram that'll be like, man, like that was an awesome episode. And here I am like about ready to bin it. You know, about ready to, and so, yeah, it's that natural conversation. I think that, whether or not someone's driving to work in their car or they're sitting at work or they're working in the shop and it's over the speakers in the shop and they're sitting there nodding, like, yeah. Like I feel the same way. Or I've experienced that, when they're listening to just normal conversation. Yeah,
because realistically, you don't have these conversations on an everyday basis with even your best friends, your coworkers, or anything. Generally speaking,
right.
I know that I don't, unless they come on the podcast. So sometimes when I just want to catch up with a buddy, I'll say, dude, jump on the podcast because I know we're not going to be on our phones. We're not going to be distracted.
Right.
We're going to be connected, dude. Plug into me, I plug into you, pause, and we're going to have a good time.
And that's it to me. Like, I don't look at it as like podcast episodes. I look at it as, when I've had a few friends on that like don't do this often, I'm like, just forget about the mic. Keep it like a fist from your face. We're just gonna hang out and we're gonna talk. Just don't worry about like notes or on their end. I was like, I'll move us from subject to subject. You don't got to worry about like keeping things afloat. Like just talk and hang out.
Yeah, and that's the thing about a good host is a good host has to be able to podcast with anybody. It's their job to make the guest feel comfortable and to bring up the subject and bring that out of that person, the reason why you wanted them in the first place.
Exactly.
The interest that you see in them, what you see, okay, I want to know more about them. But people on the other side, if they're not used to talking, they're not just going to jump in there and be like, hey, you got to take it out of them.
And they're not going to create that flow that like you kind of have to create. And as far as like when you get to the end of a subject and knowing how to like pay attention so you can like correlate to what you're talking about and keep it going.
Yeah.
So I'm very green at that still. I feel like I'm naturally good at talking to people. So I feel like it doesn't stall the podcast out. But when someone's talking and I know we're kind of coming to the end of like this chapter of what we're talking about, and I'll start like, as we're talking, I'll be revisiting what we've been talking about. I'm like, what's the best thing to move into? 3, 2, 1. Like, and then it'll be something like completely random. Like, so Coke or Pepsi?
Dude, if you ever get jammed up, they have I just saw it was a pack of cards, but it's like podcast cards. So you pull one out and it'll say like, when did you lose your virginity or something? Like, if you need those cards, just don't podcast. I'm
going to use them. That'll be hilarious. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I'll take one for a Christmas gift though, if anybody wants to get me a set.
What color was your first car?
Exactly.
Like real super simple stuff.
Yeah, but
that's awesome.
So since you got into podcasting, have you started to listen to a lot more of them?
Yeah, I don't feel like I've branched out enough though.
Okay.
Like I listen because I'm like I'm not a historian, but I really like history and like engineering and stuff like that. Obviously like Joe Rogan's podcast, he's got so many people on, and I don't listen to every episode. I'm not like a
stan.
A what?
Stan? You don't know what that means? Stan?
Oh, is that like a version of a fan?
It's like the worst version. Like Eminem, you know, Eminem, the song Stan.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's like, that's what you call somebody a Stan.
That's right. That's
so
right.
like, I'm not a Joe Rogan Stan.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. but if he has like someone of interest on, and he's got a lot of like returning like Egyptologists and stuff, and I'm a nerd about all that stuff. So I get caught in that funnel train. My good friend Josh Garcia has an automotive podcast called the Revival Motoring Podcast.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, he started maybe 2018. I've been on a few episodes with that. We've talked about some of my car projects and whatnot, but he's gone from just him and like a guest to him and 3 of my other buddies. So it's 4 of the guys.
Very cool.
Every week. I mean, they've got like Toyota, like letting them borrow Supras and all sorts of stuff now.
Wow.
They've like, but the thing is, I think he focused on a certain avenue and stuck with it.
Yeah.
And was able to generate like sponsorships and like people because they knew that podcast wasn't going to like waver and bunny trail certain things.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with mine doing that.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome to like have like, not like sponsors, but people come on and like, you know, like want to be a part in a certain way or whatever. But I want to keep mine kind of going different avenues just to keep it different. But Josh's podcast, Revival, I listen to a lot of theirs just because they're friends of mine, and half the time they'll be roasting people that I know or me, myself, you know, whatever. But I don't know. Other podcasts.
Is that sponsored by Moto IQ?
I don't know, to be honest.
I might be mistaken.
Yeah, I
have seen that one pop up.
Yeah.
Before.
Yep. Yeah. So that's been a trending thing. He's been an automotive photographer for years and kind of got out of it because he got a little burnt out. Started a family, you know, that whole transition. And then now that the family's kind of established and all he has to do is basically curate that now.
Yeah.
He's like dove back into the automotive field with a podcast. And the coolest thing about Revival is he's got a print magazine attached to it. So his photo work, and he's brought on some friends that'll do some like contract work for the magazine too. But it's like 175 page, large format, good quality paper magazine called Revival Motoring. So it's really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I gotta check it out.
I imported, and this is a whole different story, but to glaze over it, when I was in England in 2018, I bought a Russian Zhiguli, which is a Lada, but it's a pre-export Russian like iron.
I don't know what any of those words mean.
Have you heard of a Lada?
No.
Lada?
Is that a coffee?
It's a car. Oh, it could be a coffee. Could be a coffee. No. So it's a Soviet car.
Okay.
Like a Soviet Russian car, Eastern European car. And long story short, it was based off the Fiat 124, which was an Italian-made car. And basically, after World War II, with the Third Reich and Germany falling apart, and then obviously Russia put the wall up, and Russia kind of took control of like East Berlin and like Eastern Europe and stuff like that. They started to build their own infrastructure for like cars and manufacturing and all that sort of stuff. So they like worked with Fiat in Italy to build an automotive manufacturing plant in Russia to start making cars. So the early Ladas were called Zhigulis, and that's just a Russian word. That was the name of the automotive. It was called AutoVAZ, was like the manufacturer. And they started making these cars that looked like Fiat 124s because it was all the same tooling, but they changed the motor, made it a little bit more stout. They gave it like a straight axle 4-link rear end, like a pickup truck style rear end, and they changed the lights and they made it more Russian and stuff like that. And I've always wanted one. You see them in all the old Bond films. They're the Russian Eastern European cars that are exploding everywhere, like because they're just the dime a dozen type car. But after 1975, they started exporting them into like Western Europe and stuff, and so they became known as Ladas because the word Zhiguli translated into like other words that weren't like fit for an automotive car or something. So I always wanted a pre-export, like a 1970 to 75, the first 5 years of their production, a Zhiguli 2101, which is a little 4-door, looks like a Datsun 510, like just a more square, less aerodynamic, less like cool.
Gotcha.
Very square, very like utilitarian car. And so I'd always wanted one. So anyway, long story short, I bought one impulse while I was in England. I found a Russian guy that had brought it over from Lithuania, and he had it in like a storage unit. And I was like, and it was red, and I wanted a red one. I'm like, I gotta have it. So I bought it. I PayPal'd him, friends and family. PayPal.
Oh shit!
So
wait.
So I've lived, my friend.
Oh my god.
So I'll glaze over this one because we could be here for hours talking about some of these stories. So I was in England because we were driving to Wörthersee, the Volkswagen show in Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge show. It's been going on for like 40 years now or something like that. And I'd always wanted to go. So I flew into England and we were driving from England to Germany to meet up with some friends in Germany. We were driving vintage BMWs and Mercedes, like vintage cars all the way down through the Alps into Austria for Wörthersee. So we were going to be over there for a month, like 3.5 weeks or something like that. The second day we're there, the day before we leave for Germany, I buy this stupid Lada.
Yeah.
And I PayPal a Russian man, friends and family. He gives me a little laminated piece of paper that has Lithuanian writing all over it. And he says, this is the registration. And I'm like, okay. And he keeps the car, keeps the keys to the car, does a burnout in it when he puts it back in his storage unit after I've paid for it. and then we leave for Germany. We go to the Eurotunnel and head into France. And this guy just kept the keys. He's got the car. I PayPal'd him friends and family, so there's no disputing this. And so we're heading into France, and I'm like kind of biting my fingernails. The buddy from Wales that I was driving to Germany with had a friend from Wales that was going to go collect the car the next day, the day that we were heading to the Eurotunnel. So by the time we got into France, I think we were just waiting to board the Eurotunnel with the cars, or the Eurotrain. My buddy Dean got a text from his buddy Simon with the Lada on his ramp truck. And I was like, thank God. Thank God.
Good.
And then it hung out in a garage for a few months after I went home and facilitated shipping it to the States. And then I fully restored it. Friends from Russia sent me like new old stock USSR, like Iron Curtain Soviet, like Russian parts for this car. Like a brand new emblem, new lights, new lenses, new interior bits, like incredible. And I cut the paint down and like went through the paint. I built an air suspension for it. I put the airlift 3H system in it. Then I bought and restored some magnesium BBS E76 motorsport wheels, like the 3-piece motorsport wheels. And I went through the whole car. So to come back full circle after the bunny trail, Josh Garcia featured that car in Revival Motoring in his magazine, in the second issue. So it's really cool to kind of be on the ground floor with his podcast and the magazine with a car that I'd always wanted. I'd always wanted one. And you can find them here in America, especially on the East Coast, because it's easier to ship cars from Europe right to the East Coast. But they're all like the later model ones.
Yeah.
Mine was like everything, all the instrumentation, everything was in Russian. There wasn't an English word anywhere in the car.
That's awesome.
That's what I loved.
Yeah.
I love that weird quirky stuff.
Yeah.
Like my Century, that was never exported out of Japan. So everything in that car is in Japanese. All of it. Window switches, all the little switches, it's all Japanese writing everywhere. And I just love how alien that makes you feel. When you drive the car, you're looking at like all this, I can't read Russian or Japanese, but I love being in a car where I'm like, man, some guy drove this like through Russia.
Well, at least Japanese will have like a smiley face, sad face.
Yeah, Russian's just like a hammer and like a knife or something. Yeah.
So I need your help. I need you to help me find E30 M3.
Ooh, for a good price. Man,
dude,
I missed that boat too, man.
I just fell in love, dude. Probably with a lot of people with the Kith BMW collabo that they just did.
Okay.
I barely started getting into BMWs. Probably about 3 years ago. I got I got an M4.
Oh, cool.
Just fell in love with it, dude. And then my car now is an M8.
Yep.
And so I'm getting into BMWs, and then I see that collabo, and then I've seen those cars before, but something about that video, I don't know if you've seen it yet.
Seen it yet.
Dude, you have to check it out.
Yeah,
if you go
absolutely.
to Kith, there's a video that they made, maybe like a 2-3 minute video, and it just shows all those old school E30 M3s.
Yeah, the
and I'm just
DTM
like,
cars.
Whoa,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
So I want to get one, but then after that video, I started looking, and you're probably talking like 60, 80.
To get your feet wet.
Shit.
They're a 6-figure car now.
Yeah.
And what's a bummer is I'm a huge Mercedes guy. I've had a lot of vintage Mercedes over the years. And back in 2013, the 5-speed 190s are like super hard to find. The early model ones, the 2.3. The Cosworths you can find with the 16 valve with the dogleg box manual. But at the time I didn't have Cosworth money. So I bought an early model 5-speed 190. And I did the Euro lights, Euro conversion. I bagged it and I did a bunch of fun stuff to it. But the plan was to always find a Cosworth, and those are obviously the DTM. The Cosworth is the nemesis to the E30 M3. So it's an ITB 16 valve, 2.34 cylinder.
What is that one called?
A 190E Cosworth. Okay. Yeah.
And what year is that?
The Cosworth here in the States, I think, was 87 or 88.
I want to check that out.
Could be wrong.
So you're saying that was the competition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Just like the Audi S2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So all like the DTM cars you know, the what we had here was the Merkur XR4 Ti, and that was like the Ford Sierra RS500 in Europe. So the Euro Ford RS500 competed with the E30 M3s, the 190E Cosworths, the Audi S2s. Yeah, who else? Porsche wasn't in DTM.
Did the 190s, did those have the vacuum locks?
Yeah, mine did. Mine was in 85. They started making the 190E in 84. The Cosworths came out in like 87 or something like that. But
Got you.
Because they were a homologation car. So in order to run in the DTM circuit, you had to make X amount of production cars. So that's kind of what the E30 M3 was. And the E30 M3, I mean, it's not a fast car.
Yeah.
Especially in today's terms. You get in it and you drive it and you're like, what's supposed to happen? But it's just, it's the like the motorsport in the veins of the car. You can just tell that, you know, BMW was like immersed in motorsport when they built that car. And it's just a fun car to go ripping up and down a canyon, out here a canyon, but out east, you know, just some mountain road, you know. But
what about just like a shell?
I don't know. I think shells are like too expensive as well.
Really?
It's all thanks to Bring a Trailer. I think people have just been kind of, you know, when two guys battle it out and drive the price away up, people now think that that's like the market going rate for that car. And it's like, no, it's like two guys battled it out to 150 grand for that E30 M3. It doesn't mean that they're worth that, but it becomes that.
That's why I would try to tell the Honda guys that freak out over
Chill out.
the Type R's for like 80 grand or whatever. I'm like, somebody paid it, but I'm pretty sure I could sell this pen to somebody for $100,000 if I find the right person.
What do they say? There's an ass for every seat. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's cool and it's a bummer. Like, because like I've always wanted an E30 M3, or the Cosworth 190s were $6,000 to $10,000 cars like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
6 or 7 years ago maybe, and I passed on some. A buddy of mine had one for like $6,500 and had a few things. I was like, nah, I'm good. You take 5? No, okay, whatever. And now I'm like, well, shoot, because they're not 6-figure cars yet, but they're like nipping at the heels of the E30 M3. So now it's like, oh, you can't afford an E30 M3? Well, I got a 190E Cosworth here, but that's 20 grand. And you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, so, it gets like that with everything. In the Honda community, the all-wheel drive stuff.
Yes.
You know, before the all-wheel drive craze started, you could probably get all that stuff for scrap metal.
Yeah, cheap stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that in every industry, or every manufacturer, every brand.
You know what the great thing would be is if you're the person that could drive the price up, and you own the parts.
Yeah, exactly. If you're sitting on a treasure trove of those parts, like with my E23, I mean, I had a couple magazine features, so that, you know, people who'd seen that, you know, it kind of adds some value to that specific car. But, you know, I sold that car for $22,000 and I didn't have anywhere near that invested into it. Yeah. So I felt like I didn't sell it on Bring a Trailer, but I felt like I was a part of that like movement where the car is technically worth that. I didn't think it was, but when I started watching the E30 M3 skyrocket, that 7 Series of mine was as like period correct motorsport as a 7 Series could get. Like I had every rare bit on that car, but the 7 Series weren't M cars.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like an M5 or an M6. They never made an M7, so mine was as close as it could get. And luckily, there was someone who I could have sold it for that all day long to some other people too. But yeah, it's just. But that's all I had. I had that one car. It's not like I had 5 of them. Where I'm like, all right, you know, next in line. I'm watching all these cars skyrocket in value, the cars that I've always wanted, and I'm like, nope. I'm not going to be able to afford any of those cars anymore.
Did the old 8 Series, was that ever an M, or it was just an 8 Series?
They did not make an M, I don't think. And if there's any BMW enthusiasts stronger than me listening to this, they might be disputing that. But,
I don't.
They made the 840, which was the V8. Then they made the 850, which was the V12. And I don't think they made an M8. I think the new ones, because they're doing like M package 7 Series now too.
Oh, okay.
And you couldn't get that all the way up until the late 90s or even the early 2000 platforms. You couldn't get like an M package 7 Series.
All right, guys, we have to take a break for our sponsor, Action Clutch. One of the most critical parts to any build is the clutch. Without a proper clutch, you won't be able to get that power to the wheels. No one wants to spend hundreds of dollars on a clutch that won't hold their power for more than a few races or spirited drives. Dude, what if you bought a new clutch and you just went for a drive and...
Oh my God.
What would
I'd
you
ask
do?
for a refund.
And what'd they say? Sorry, you already installed it.
But if you go to Action Clutch,
You won't have that problem, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's important to go with a kit that you know that you can count on. And that's why most people choose Action Clutch over the competition. Action Clutch makes all their kits here in the USA with material sourced locally in Los Angeles. You ever been in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Yeah, they do a lot of urban camping there. You ever seen that?
No.
They camp on the freeways and then they camp.
The homeless?
It's just camping, bro.
Really?
Yeah. You ever go camping and then you see somebody camping?
Yeah.
Do you ever think that they're homeless?
Well,
Like in casitas?
yeah, but that's...
It's called urban camping, bro. That's all it is, dude. So if you guys are in Los Angeles, you can see urban camping and you can go visit Action Clutch as well, man, because they have kits for OEM replacement clutches all the way up to 1,200 horsepower and can be found everywhere from street cars, drag cars, and even Formula Drift vehicles. Dude, you ever been to Formula Drift?
No.
Yes, you have, dude. See how you are? You don't even remember. You have in Long Beach where they're doing the drifting and everything.
I don't remember.
Oh, maybe that was my other son. Sorry.
Maybe.
Manuel. Shout out to Manuel. Not only not only are the clutches made in the USA, but they have made a strong focus this year to give back a percentage of sales to the community during these hard times, providing impacted families with groceries and other necessities. Christian, what are you doing to give back to families in hard times right now? That's what I thought. Contact Action Clutch today with whatever you need to receive the family treatment. You can find them at actionclutch.com, and if you don't see what you need there, you can give them a call at 323-269-6051, or you could DM them at
Action Clutch.
That's it, Action Clutch, or you can email them at
sales@actionclutch.com.
And if you need anything, just use code DTWD and tell them that C2 is going to give you 15% off. Back to the show. Now, let me ask you a hard-hitting question. Is the M package an M?
It's not. Not technically. But someone who got the M package will tell you otherwise. They didn't pay M price. They paid for the option. They're like, it's got
That's
M.
always their excuse.
Yes.
This guy's deal. I got a deal on it.
Yeah, it's got M door thresholds. And it's got an M steering wheel in it. Yeah.
I'm just a dickhead, bro. I'm sorry.
No, but like I had an E39 5 Series touring wagon, which was an early 2000s 5 Series touring wagon, and it had an M package on it. So it wasn't an M touring wagon. I mean, that thing would have been worth a ton of money if it did, or if it was. I mean, but it had like the M steering wheel. It had the air suspension in the rear, which was adjustable if you had like a bunch of stuff. It's a wagon, you know. So it had the upgraded suspension. Had the M shifter. It was an automatic, but it had the M shifter and it had an M steering wheel. And that's it. So it wasn't an M5.
Yeah.
But it had some M stuff to make you feel like you're driving an M because you're looking at the badge on the steering wheel. But yeah,
it makes me feel like an M every time I pay for it every month. I'm like, oh yeah, that's an M.
I bet I'd be an M8. What year is it?
2020.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun, dude. I'll take you for a ride real quick around the block after
Heck
this.
yeah. See, I'm a flagship guy. I mean, clearly we're talking about my 7 Series. We're talking about my extended wheelbase Century. Like I have some small cars. I like small cars too. Like that Lada was a real small car, but I love flagships. So an 8 Series is the sporty version of a flagship car. You know, that was the whole point with the E31s,
Mm-hmm.
like the first gen 8 Series. We're doing like a 7 Series sized coupe that's like aerodynamic and is fast.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that they're making big cars.
So we were mentioning earlier before we got on that you're out you spent some time in Tennessee.
Yep.
Because I've been out there for Import Alliance.
Yep.
And with all this talk brings up Import Alliance fall meet. I forget the year, but there was that rusty car there. You remember that one?
Mike Burrows' car?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Mike's out here now.
Really?
Yeah. Costa Mesa, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So when I was out here last year with my 7 Series, because Mike's a BMW guy, and I've known Mike since 2012 maybe. And so when we came out here last fall, we swung by his shop. He does Stance Works.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah,
So
I remember that maybe like 2 years ago they brought it to SEMA. 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes, and it's like third or fourth rendition.
Yeah,
because that car had gone through a ton of different phases or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
I love that car, man.
Yeah, pretty rad car. He sold it to this guy Ray, and I don't know if Ray still has it anymore, but it was a part of like a museum for a little bit, just because it was such a wild version of a BMW.
So how far is that from New Hampshire?
Tennessee?
Mm-hmm.
Well, So I lived in Nashville for a little bit.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yep, in 2012.
Really?
Yeah. But it's like a 20-hour drive from where I'm at in New Hampshire. Yeah. Yeah, 20 hours or
How'd
so.
you like Nashville?
I like it. I like the food. Food's my favorite part of Nashville for sure. It's a bit of a melting pot.
Yeah.
It's like Orlando, Florida. It's like there's no Floridians there. It's like Nashville is just kind of like a melting pot, and that's why I was mentioning before that I was more keen on possibly moving to Chattanooga this time if I were to go south again. I actually just got back from Chattanooga a couple weeks ago. My good friend Mason puts on the Riverside Chattanooga show down there in this really cool old pavilion. It's an all-encompassing show. It's mostly like Japanese stuff or hot rods. It's a curated show. So you put a registration in and he like hand picks all the cars that are going to be in the show. No awards, just like it's almost like, I don't know if you know Simply Clean in Florida. So Nikolai's a good friend of mine, and it's same idea. No awards. It's like a giant car meet with vendors. You know, and so I was just in Chattanooga with the Century. I trailered that down. People were like, "Oh, you trailered it? You're gonna drive it?" And I'm like, I drove it coast to coast. It's earned the trailer.
Yeah.
I bought an enclosed trailer just for that car because it's 20 feet long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was gonna buy an 18-foot trailer to fit like my Corvair and a few other cars in, and then the Corvair was tight in my buddy's 18-footer, and I was like, I'll get a 20-footer. Then I bought that stupid Century, and I started like, the kid who had the car that I was buying it off, I'm like, can you run a tape bumper to bumper? He's like, oh, it's like 19 and a half. And I'm like, oh, so I had to buy a 24-foot trailer.
Oh, shit.
Every time the trailer got bigger, my truck kept getting smaller. I'm like, oh, this is awful. So I've got what the Ford boys call an OBS Ford. Mm-hmm. So I've got a 93 Southern from Tennessee, which is like gold up in New Hampshire. So it's a rust-free Ford crew cab dually 7.3 diesel with a manual gearbox.
Oh, wow.
Like it's a really cool truck. But with that 24-foot trailer behind it, with the Century's like a 5,000 or 6,000 pound car. That poor truck. It was just a slug. So we went down to H2O, the unofficial H2O. This was my 11th year going down there.
Wow.
So I go to Ocean City, Maryland every single year. Every single year. We do a big Governors Club meet there. I make some merchandise for it. It's like this huge thing that we do down there now. So from Ocean City, Riverside was the next weekend. And Ocean City, Maryland's like on the way to Tennessee from New Hampshire. So we hit Ocean City, then we went on to Chattanooga, and we came back mid-October. So it was about almost like a month ago we did that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so, I like Tennessee a lot, now that you bring it up. So.
I've never been to H2O. I've always wanted to go. Tell me about it, bro.
Dude.
What kept you going for so long? And still, that is not even there, you're still going.
Yeah. So I started going because it was a Volkswagen show. Okay. Because I've been a Volkswagen nerd. That's kind of what got me in the cars in the first place. And so in 2009, I actually went to the show. 2010, I brought another Volkswagen down, went to the show. Then 2011, I brought an E30 BMW down and didn't go to the show because I was having more fun just cruising the strip, eating seafood, hanging out with my friends, going to all the different car meets up and down the strip. It's like 10 miles of 2 lanes one way, 2 lanes the other, straight as an arrow, cruise the boulevard. You know, they have hot rod shows there, and like that's the whole thing. Is you go to Ocean City to cruise the strip.
So there's an actual show, an event?
There was.
Gotcha.
So it started in like 99 or 2000. So it's been going on for quite a while. But 2000, I want to say it was 2017 or 18.
Yeah, I remember.
The guy like, and I kind of know some of the players in that whole scheme, I guess. But like the guy basically like pulled out of the show like a few weeks before we were supposed to have the show. And left a lot of vendors hanging because they had merch made for the show, and people who had condos. Like it was such a long-standing show and such a huge show that people were booking their condos for the next year while we were in Ocean City that year type deal. So, but it became its own phenomenon that people just kept going. And yeah, a lot of the old timer Volkswagen guys are like, oh, it got ruined. It kind of did because more and more people kept bringing random cars and like
that purple FRS.
Yeah. Kilogram, not Kilogram.
No, not Kilogram. Shout out to Kilogram.
Yeah. Oh, Killionaire.
Yes.
I knew it was something. Kill something. Oh my gosh. Well, I seen the thing is, I like it all. I really do. Like, unless you're like just insufferable and you've got an attitude and you're like clearly think you're above everybody else. It's like, take a walk, you know? And I don't know if that kid is like that. I'm just saying, I like looking out over the strip. I love everything I'm seeing with exception, but like I like it all. I like the hot rods. I like the Japanese stuff. I love like the VIP Japanese movement. I love that stuff. Like extreme camber, it's all cool as long as it's like your fabrication's done safely.
If you ask me as an adult, my opinion on it, I say that stuff is dumb. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely fucking be there. I'll be like, hell yeah. You know, it's fucking, I don't know. There's something about it that it seems like chaos to me.
And I stay out of the chaos. Like I'm not a partier. I've never, like our governors club meet, like I say we as if it's bigger than me, but I pride myself on the fact that like the governors club meet is like the country club meet for like the car guys. It's like the serious car enthusiast, you know, there's no burnouts. We'll have 500 to even possibly 1,000 cars in some of these lots and some of these meets. Yeah. And everybody for the most part knows the deal. Mm-hmm. Like I'll even like, if I see some Ocean City police officers, usually the state troopers, cause they're a little bit more cool. Ocean City police are just kind of like crazy now, but I'd actually like swing in and talk to one and be like, hey, we're going to be down at like 58th Street or whatever with a car meet. And I would encourage you to swing by because we're basically telling people not to do burnouts. So if someone does a burnout, you know, get them out of here type deal. So I would encourage having a police officer in the back part of the parking lot because all we wanted to do was hang out in the parking lot. Yeah. And then you get 10 minutes into your meet and some idiot comes in and does a burnout and the police see it and they kick everybody out. And it's like, that's what I went down there to hang out with my friends in one spot. And so I stay out of the melee. We always stay up in the higher numbers. There's a few select streets where the melee is every year.
Yeah, so I'll probably be out there.
So you just stay. It's cool to witness for the most part until it gets way too out of hand and you're like, I'm out of here. But we'll cruise down through there every now and then. But I like going because I see friends of mine that I don't normally see. It's halfway up the East Coast. So we've got all of our Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia boys that come up. Up until this year, I had friends from England and Germany and even Russia. My friend Victor from Moscow comes over every year. Yeah, I mean, all the Canada boys come down. We've got friends that drive out from Washington and Montana. I mean, these guys will bring like old air-cooled buses and just like drive across America to come to Ocean City and hang out for a week. Dude. Yeah, it's got its own culture now. But this year specifically because of the pandemic and whatnot, the police and whoever's listening to this, if you had your finger on the pulse on Instagram, you saw it. But they were impounding like stock cars this year. Like it was impound fest. And I was there in a Century and that thing's got blacked out windows. I did not drive it aired up. Like that thing was like skating the ground and it's got wide split wheels with stretch tires and they were impounding all the cars with all those things. Tint, ride height, stretch tires. They were impounding everything. And luckily, I chalk it up to the fact that the car commands so much attention and like presence when you see it in person. It's got the big, huge front fender mirrors and stuff. It's got this crazy emperor, like crazy, like evil villain kind of look to it. That I think most people were like, most of the officers were just like, what on earth is that thing?
Scared.
And not like, ooh, we're going to impound that. I think they were actually trying to like figure out, because we'd have cruisers like pull right up by us, like cruise by us real slow. And they'd be like looking at the front end and there's no Toyota emblems on it. It's the Century had this like Phoenix logo on the front of the grill and it's got this very like ornate look to it and people are like, I don't even know what that is. So we got away scot-free this year. And I've never been impounded because I don't bring anything that's too like crazy aesthetically and none of my stuff's fast. Yeah. So I'm not getting in trouble for speeding or anything, but I go every year without fear. But after this year, I am a little nervous for 2021 because there's a bunch of legal like stuff going on now. People are lawyering up and fighting the city for impounding their car when there was no grounds to. Gotcha. We'll see. Maybe by next year they would have been put into their place, the local law enforcement there, and everything will be like back to normal, or it'll just be as crazy as.
Yeah, I wish I could have made it in its heyday.
Yeah, heyday. Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, it was still mostly Volkswagen, 2009, 2010. 2011 was the beginning of, you saw way more BMWs, way more Mercedes, like German stuff with some like 240SXs mixed in. And then 2012 and 13 was like the beginning of like seeing everything, which I love. I love watching all the different stuff cruise up and down the strip.
You know what makes me think of some of those recap videos is your music. I was checking out your SoundCloud, dude.
Oh boy.
And I was listening to some and I'm just like, dude, I could totally see this just with some edit.
Yeah. And it's funny you checked out my music. I mean, that SoundCloud is like unfinished demos. Like I am my own worst critic.
Sounded good, dude.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Like More so than with any. I don't call myself a perfectionist. You'd never get anything done if you were. But with music, I'm really, really hard on myself with music. Like I bin everything I do. I've got hard drives. It's like when I revisit stuff like 2 years later, I'm like, why didn't I do anything with that? I actually like that. But at the time, I didn't like it, and it just stayed as like some sort of demo. So all the SoundCloud stuff is actually like just demo, unfinished, recorded myself, mixed it myself. Half the stuff isn't even mixed. But I really like soundtrack music, like movie scores. Like you could close your eyes and just the soundtrack like puts you on this like emotional journey in a way. Like whether or not it's dark or just vast sounding and just kind of puts you in a certain place. That's what I like most about music. So that's kind of, I guess, if I was trying to capture anything, that's what I try to capture with my music.
What instruments do you play?
So I started playing guitar. when I was in like 7th grade. So that's my main instrument. But I play drums. I play bass, but that's basically playing guitar. And I suffer through playing piano. So I can play, but I taught myself late in life after having played guitar my whole life. So it was like you're trying to train your fingers to do something totally different. And I love piano. I mean, if I had nothing else going on, I would dedicate my life to playing piano.
Really?
My dream job is to write movie scores. That's like a dream job, but it's the dream job I'm not pursuing.
Yeah.
So I can't really, because every reaction I get out of people, they're like, "What's your dream job?" I'm like, they expect me to say something that has something to do with cars, and I'm like, to write movie scores, and like, well, why aren't you doing that? And I'm like, good point. It's one of those things where it's hard to be realistic about making money doing something like that.
Yeah.
So it's tough, especially being self-employed. It's like, how it is. It's 24/7. You never check out mentally.
Definitely, man. I could totally agree with you on that. One of my biggest passions is like editing videos. I wish that I could just make my own movie.
Yep.
Like direct my own movie and shoot it and edit it and just do all that. But that doesn't seem realistic. The ball's already rolling, everything's going good, but what we're doing right here, and I could still mix that into what we're doing and still get some joy out of it, whether it's a 1 minute clip, but I would like to do like a 30-minute movie or something that.
Yeah, and I love that too. I love video production. I mean, I never dove down that rabbit hole because I didn't want to waste the money on gear. But friends of mine who do that. I don't know if you know Anthony Purcell, Halcyon Photo.
Yeah.
So
I love Halcyon.
Have you seen his feature of my century?
No, I haven't.
So he brought his gear to Ocean City this year to just shoot the century.
Really?
He didn't do an after movie this year. He literally brought his gear to just shoot the century. This is the only feature he did this year. And I've known Anthony for a long time. I've made some of his Halcyon merch and stuff, like his leather key rings and stuff. But I was, he's shot some of my cars for his films. But this was the first time we worked together on solely shooting that car. And he texted me just a few days ago, and he's like, dude, like the algorithm on my YouTube for your car is like nothing I've ever seen before.
Really?
Like, it's one of 400 cars ever built, and it's bagged on vintage work split wheels, and it's like it's all OEM period correct. I tried to keep everything OEM. There's a lot of work into that car. I custom built the suspension and stuff, but it's subtle. It's just quote unquote bags and wheels, but everything inside that car is super rare Century stuff that I've imported from Japan. It's like all like the optional add-on stuff that people could get when they bought a Century, and stuff that isn't super expensive now, but it's super rare, but no one that doesn't own a Century would really want. Yeah. But when I find it on like Yahoo Auction Japan or something, I'm like, ooh, like that's one of those one of like 20 piece things or whatever. But Anthony, like he loves Japanese culture in that car, and he his skills like shined with that car for sure.
I gotta check it out.
It's one of the most recent videos he's done.
Just that's funny that you bring him up because that's one of my favorite videographers, dude.
He's
like
so
the
good.
way that he is able to caption the shows.
Yep.
Like I was at that show. It wasn't that fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how crazy. Like, yeah, I mean, he could sell anything because of how he can like create it as an image.
I think the one that really got me was Daytona Tuner Evo 2016, 17. Maybe.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, he won an award for
the film. Okay, yeah.
Possibly 2017.
Yeah.
But dude, after seeing that, it just gave me a whole different perspective on like just videography.
Right.
And Dude, that I would love to do something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
me too. I love it. I mean, just dabbling in the YouTube stuff. I mean, when I was riding BMX, I would film and make my own BMX videos too, and I really liked that. But once I started to ride full time, I was on the other end of the camera, and so I never really got as immersed as I wanted to in video production. I share that same passion, but I at this point, I see my friends excelling with it, and I'm like, all right, like if I can help give you some content for your film, your production or whatever, I'd rather do that than try to tool up with like cameras and try to like be relevant with that stuff. Yeah, to do it because it's fun, but I think we're both cut from the same cloth where if you're going to do it, you might as well do it to the best of your ability and try to like make it relevant.
I'm just thinking about it right now, buying all the equipment, just like getting the content and then putting it out there and hoping people buy it and hoping it grows. Yeah. That doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah, because it'd be a whole new grind.
Exactly. What interests me is I'll just make this video and I'll be like, hey, dude, check out this video I made. That's it. That's all I would want. Yep. I just hired a guy for, since you speak of vlogging, full time to vlog for me.
Man.
And I was having a meeting with him the other day. And I was like, you know what, bro? I have the business. I have everything. But what I would love to do with my day is do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just record and then edit it and then create something.
Yeah.
You have something right here and it's just, you just have to dial it in. But don't look at it as like, oh shit, we have a vlog every day at 6 p.m. Don't look at it as like a deadline.
Right.
Look at it as like, I'm excited for 6 p.m. because now I get to show people what I created.
Yep. And that's exactly what I started doing like 2 years ago, like documenting all my travel, the car projects. And without bringing someone on. So the idea, just thinking about that, bringing someone on to like not just edit, but to film and like shadow you doing stuff is like, it seems like such a dream.
Oh, dude.
Because I was telling you before we sat down here that it's so defeating half the time, because half the time I'm under a time crunch to get a car done for some show or whatever. And I stop documenting it because documenting it myself makes the simplest project take 4 times longer than normally would, because now not only am I making sure all the gear's there, SIM cards cleared or formatted, and the batteries are charged, then I got to set the shot up, and then I got to explain what I'm doing. And then when I actually go to do it, I'll set the camera up over here, and it's like all I want to do is like cut that plate out and like weld it to that, and it just I gotta just get that done. And so it feels so defeating to like take all that time, make a project take 4 times longer than it normally would, and then I sit for, maybe over the course of 2 nights or 3 nights after I'm done work for the day, like edit it, get it up. But I'm like just kind of throwing it together as like a vlog style episode, no cinematic value or anything like that. Just raw clips kind of timelined out, and then upload it. And then, I only have like 2,500 subscribers, which is whatever. But like, I'm like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Is this worth it? And then like we were saying before, I'll get like 2 people that'll be like, man, please keep making these. And I'm like, all right, for that guy.
Yeah, I got you, bro.
Like I'm working for him. Like, and so every time I do a video, I'm thinking of that one dude that left that one comment. I'm like, this is for him. He's going to see this.
Oh my God, bro. That's so funny, dude. All right, we got to take one last break for our sponsor, Automotive. Piecing together a fuel system for a build can be a difficult task. Luckily, Automotive has your back with everything that you need, from fuel pump replacements to fuel systems that will support up to 3,000 horsepower. Do you know how much that is?
Kind of.
The M has about 750. So.
Oh my God.
So about a few M's, it's about that fast. But if you have something that fast, you can go to Automotive and they'll get you hooked up, because the engineers at Automotive have developed a solution for your build regardless of power level. So if you have 5 horsepower, maybe if you just got a horse, dude, take your horse over there, they'll feed them a little fuel and spark them up a little bit. If you're looking to make the switch over to E85, they have all the parts that you need to build a system that will be there when you need it the most. Need a custom fuel system for your daily that has turned into a project car? No problem. They have the new products, dude. It's the brushless pump line. It's a quieter pump, it's less heat, and it lasts longer than traditional pumps. This ranges from the A1000, that's all the way up to 10 gallons per minute. 3,000 horsepower.
Oh,
you know
God.
when you're pumping gas, dude?
Yeah.
1 gallon is about like 350.
Yeah.
They'll use 10 gallons in 1 minute.
Oh my
So that's
God.
$34 of fuel in 1 minute. That's why racing's so expensive, man. Big shout out to anybody that has a 3,000 horsepower car, though. But if you don't have anything that crazy, we're probably about like the 700 horsepower range. You know, we'll probably use the Stealth 340, which is the top selling fuel pump for. So 700 for EFI or 1,000 for the carburetor. Maybe we'll put that on the Chevelle, dude. Probably put that one on the Chevelle. And then if you build a car and you're just like, I don't even know what to do with the fuel at all, I just have no idea, you can hit them up and then check out the customization shop and you say, hey, this is what I got and I need everything, and they'll take care of you, bro. And then if you're a pro drifter like Matt Field, dude, you go race in the season, and when you're done with that, you go hang out with the babes, sign autographs and drink Monster or whatever, whoever he's sponsored by. You just send your car or all your products over to Automotive, dude, and say, hey, I need you to fix this up. They'll take it apart, clean it real nicely, dude, send it back to you, and then you go win some races, man. So do you need anything from Automotive?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So make sure you use code DTWD to save 10%, bro. What a deal, huh?
Yeah.
All right, guys. I hope you're enjoying this episode with John Ludwick. Awesome guy. And back to the show. Like, I've been so stressed out with the podcast, the business, everything. We just moved homes. I've been doing the move, and this is how crazy the world is, bro. I didn't even have an upload for Monday. And I wasn't really even going to stress about it because we upload every Monday and Thursday. I do 2 podcasts a week. And I was just like, I'll figure it out, you know. And then Christian hit me up. I'm like, all right, cool. We got a pod. So keeping on.
Dude,
and then
I almost brought my Pelican case and be like, all right, we're done yours. All right,
let's go. Yeah, but then I got a message earlier today, and the guy's like, oh, man, thank you. The podcast helps me get through Monday and Thursday. I'm like, all right, I gotta keep going.
That's that. And man, it means so much, you know. I wish other people could understand that, because it doesn't give you, at least guys like us, it doesn't make my head big. It it puts my head down and allows me to like work harder, you know, because it's like all this stuff, it's so hard to make money doing it. And yeah, that's the dream. I'd love to just be a content creator traveling around doing fun stuff with a multimedia team that I can pay. They don't have to be like building their resume, you know, they could like, or interns or whatever. Like I could pay them, hey, we're going to Europe for 2 weeks, or we're going to build some like little clapped out, you know, Fiat or something. We're going to drive it to Russia, or, you know, just do something crazy. Yeah. And then that content creation gets you more views and more subscribers. And then it's just this perpetual cycle of just having fun. But now it's like a self-funded fun. Yeah. But that's the dream, obviously. So when it's at the ground level, it's like, man, it's like you're almost thinking about those few dudes who are like, man, thank you so much for uploading that. And I'm like, yeah, I hope Jimmy sees this on Monday, because I've been working hard for him.
For you, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then on the flip side of the coin, you look at those guys that have all those followings and they get to buy as many cars as they want and fix them up. And then you just go in their comments and you're like, wow, nobody appreciates shit. No, they're just shitting on this dude all day. So is that what I really want?
No.
With my like creativity, I'm not gonna do the vlogs and the podcasts and stuff because I expect to become a millionaire from it. You know, I have the production of things with Downstar. That's going already. That's the meat and potatoes. This is stuff that I do for fun. So do I want it to get to that point where I have 100,000 subs and then I post up a video and right in there they're like, you were wrong about this because you said this and this. I'm like, bro, we're just having a conversation. Nobody's fact checking stuff right here.
That's when you gotta flip the switch and just not even read the comments. You know, that's when you're like, here's my content, here's who I am, here's who my guest was. I'm out. You know, take it and let the comments be the dumpster fire. And just at the beginning, it's like it's good to interact with everybody and keep everything going. But I understand that there's a threshold you end up getting through where you're just like, no, I'm not going to even read any of the comments because it's going to like bum me out and ruin my motivation.
And then it'll make me think back to these times like, shit, I just wish I had 4,000 subs and I was just...
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I guess as long as you can keep that mentality going, I don't know, like people will notice how genuine you are and how organic it is, that like, even if it does get big and you're making money doing the side stuff that's just fun, as long as you stay true and stay on your rails, it'll always be organic. Yeah. It might become a bigger production because now you've got the revenue to like, pay someone to help film and help edit. And maybe production gets better and it gets more cinematic feeling, and that doesn't necessarily mean you've sold out, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I think it's easy to like see someone who's doing it because it's fun, but they've been blessed to have, you know, the following they have now and to be able to live a comfortable life and just do that. And then you see some people that are just like, yeah, they wanted to be famous,
yeah,
and now they're famous and they're like, ha, you know. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
there's a lot of famous people out there.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, dude. And two, as much as like negative comments are accepted, if the creator themselves is a positive person, if they're doing good things, those comments are not going to get the same love as they would on another person's channel.
I get it on Instagram for no reason. Just somebody comes along like that won't even follow me.
Yeah.
Just be like, I don't know, like almost something personal. Be like, you know, you're stupid, or not so many words. Yeah. Like on a photo of like one of my cars, and I won't even delete it. I'll just leave it there.
Just let it ride.
Because other people will go in there and roast them for me. I don't even let this bother me anymore. But I dealt with that with BMX.
Yeah.
You know, because BMX, you were like a one-man show. You were there because of your skill set, which was weird. It was really crazy. You know, because I grew up in a small town in Meredith, New Hampshire. So to be a professional athlete, you know, I wasn't winning like X Games gold medals. I was like a street rider. But to basically have it be my job, like you'd see kids, and it was usually jealousy, you know, someone who just wanted to be pro. I didn't want to be pro. I mean, we all dreamt of stuff like that, you know, but I just rode because I loved to ride. I had this competition inside me to learn tricks and just be obsessive over certain type of bike control and like learning certain tricks and whatnot to just overcome that and feel that victory inside me.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened I met people at different contests, and all of a sudden I'm riding for their team or whatever. It was just an organic thing, but there was a lot of kids out there that would like try to tear other people down.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of got me ready for the Instagram age.
Was that on social, or where was that happening in person?
Like message boards.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
pre Instagram, it was YouTube, and it was like big BMX message boards. There was one called BMX board. And that's where like people would host videos, like your newest edit you put up. And then there was a comment section, obviously, and people would be like, I hate that dude. And I'd be like, you don't even know me. And as like a 19-year-old, you know, in like 04, it's like it almost hurt you. You're like, what's that guy got to be so mean? Yeah. It was the beginning of the keyboard warriors, you know? So I think going through all that, you understood. And then now that we're like older, quote unquote, older in the Instagram age, when I see a comment like that, I'm like,
sorry. I'm sorry you're having a bad day,
I
bro.
feel bad for that dude.
Yeah,
definitely. It doesn't affect me.
So let's take it to BMX, man. What made you jump on a bike?
Man, maybe back to that ADD thing.
Yeah.
I think I was just like bored and like wanted to. I had a bike. I think most kids in New Hampshire, or just most kids in general, had a bike, and they like built a little dirt jump in their backyard and tried to jump tires, or that's in my case, that's what I was doing. But it wasn't until I was 15 years old when my best friend, a classmate of mine, and I were watching. Do you remember Blue Torch?
No.
So Blue Torch was on, I can't remember what TV station, but it came on at like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. on weekdays. So you'd come home from school, and Blue Torch was like an hour-long set of like skateboarding, BMX, surfing, inline skating. It was like extreme sports.
Okay.
And it was on like ESPN or something like that, but it was like core sports. You'd see like, you know.
Was Sal Masakela the host?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I would always hear that name on like X Games.
Yeah.
I don't even know who he is.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that name in like 20 years. But I started watching that, and I loved skateboarding. I loved like Rodney Mullen, Daewon Song. I loved tech skateboarders, and I just couldn't. Maybe it's because I didn't have the patience, but like every time I tried like just doing shove-its or kickflips, I just couldn't get my feet to do what I wanted the board to do, and I would slip and go over backwards. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I can hang on to a bike, and I know how to ride one of those, so let's just stick with this. And my buddy Pat had a BMX bike, and we started watching Blue Torch like after school, and we'd watch like, you know, they'd play like core BMX videos, just like they would core skateboard videos, you know, stuff that wasn't on the main television screen. And that kind of like, we'd see guys jumping up tall curbs or just doing simple grinds on ledges. And this was in 01 maybe. And I remember we both were like, we've got bikes like that. Let's do that. And at 15 years old, which is like a late start now, we just got into it. And so shortly after that, he's a day younger than me. So we got our driver's license right at the same time. And that's when we like ventured out. It's like, oh, let's go to Boston and ride in Boston for the day. And that's where it all like started. And I got addicted to, the challenge of learning tricks on my bike and the endorphin release when you learned that trick. And you're like, ooh, like I want more. Like let's add a variation to that trick or whatever. And Pat didn't stick with it like I did. We graduated high school in 2003. We drove out west. We didn't come this far south, but we drove all over the U.S. I mean, Albuquerque, Utah, Boise, Idaho, Portland, Oregon, Seattle. We rode all the concrete skate parks out west. For an East Coast kid, that was huge. And he kind of phased out of it, and I just stuck with it. And then I started traveling to Binghamton, New York, where a company called FBM is from. And they make frames in-house right in New York, in upstate New York. So it's like an American-made bike company. And they had this really cool dark skate park in this old warehouse above their machine shop. And they would hold contests there. And I'd seen that skate park in a bunch of videos. And I was like, we got to go to that skate park. And Binghamton's like 7 hours from me or something like that. So we get some friends together and we went out there and we rode the place one day. Like we drove 7 hours out, rode the whole day, and drove 7 hours home.
Shit.
Yeah, like we almost died.
What a day.
It was nuts. This was in the MapQuest days. We were like, oh, it's 3 hours. 7 hours later, we're in trouble because we didn't know anyone out there. And there was three of us. I had a short bed, single cab Chevy, an OBS Chevy, like an 88 Chevy pickup truck. There was three of us crammed in this thing. It's not like we could like comfortably sleep in the truck. But anyway, I started going out to that skate park more and just naturally started to get to know the FBM guys. FBM had just started a new sub company called The Take. And FBM was always known as like a party company. All the dudes were always like drinking beer around like bonfires and doing like rowdy stuff on their bikes, like big drops and just like gnarly dudes, leather jacket wearing BMX riders. The Take was like almost like a straight edge crew of dudes. It was real clean cut, like almost like a real clean version of FBM. And I don't drink or anything. I wasn't a straight edge kid, but all the FBM guys and the Take guys were built up of like some legendary BMX dudes. So it was cool for me to just be out there and like ride the same ramps with those guys. And then they started picking my brain about what I liked in a frame, like what I liked in certain frame geometry. And I didn't really know at the time, but I was like, I like doing like nose wheelie tricks. So I like a steep head tube and whatever. And so the Take came out with their new street frame. And I remember checking their website one day and they unveiled the new Take street frame. It was called the One True Ave. And I was reading about the frame and it's talking about all the geometry. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's all the geometry I like. And I'm like, well, this is a really cool sounding frame. Then it gets down to the bottom of the paragraph and it says, this new prototype is on its way to New Hampshire to our good friend, John Ludwick. And I'm like, what?
No.
Nobody called me. I'm 19 years old and I'm like, wait, what? And so I called Jarrett, this guy, Jarrett Ward. Jarrett Ward was one of the owners, or it might've been Jeff Harrington. Jeff Harrington's a legendary rider.
Gotcha.
And the first BMX video I ever bought, Jeff Harrington was in. And now I know Jeff now.
Nice.
And he started this new company called The Take. So I called Jeff. Jeff and Jarrett both lived in the same house, but I called one of them freaking out. I'm like, is that like a typo? Like nobody told me that you guys were going to give me the frame. Like, and he laughs and goes, yeah, we were just wondering how often you check the website. And I was like, so you like, if I didn't check the website, like it just was never going to show up. But that was my first pro sponsorship was like this, they played a joke on me. And here I am, just some kid from the woods in New Hampshire. And I remember, and to be honest, I haven't thought about this for a long, long time until we're talking about it now. But even talking about it now, I remember, man, it's so crazy. I remember exactly how my insides felt when I was reading that article on my computer, on like my Dell desktop with like Windows 98 on it. And I remember reading it and man, it was like this glow. You're like, whoa, like me out of everybody else that's shredding that skate park, like why me? And that was like the beginning. So that was like a really, really cool. I didn't have like all these sponsor me tapes I was sending out to every company, not caring who sponsored me, just as long as I got sponsored.
Yeah.
And kids that did that, that's fine too. I'm not knocking that, but it wasn't what it was about for me. So the fact that I got my foot in the door in that natural way, it felt so crazy. It was just the craziest.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
dude.
It was wild, man. And so from there, from there, you just you almost enter the room of almost like cars. You know, we know the same people. It's the same way in the BMX industry. And so I started riding for them, and they were a frame company. And then I got to know some people from Florida through that. And then I got sponsored by a company called Madera, which is owned by Profile Racing, which is out of St. Pete, Florida, another American-made company. And they'd been around for a long time. And so that now I had a component sponsor, you know, wheels, handlebars, stems, sprockets, all that sort of stuff. And then worked my way into UGP, which was a shoe and clothing company for a little bit. And and then over the years, just moved on to another frame company. In 2008, I was riding for a company called Versa and had the opportunity to design a signature frame, which was like,
wow,
massive.
Very
like
cool,
that was like a climactic point in my life. I have a half-page photo in BMX Plus magazine in Las Vegas at the Interbike trade show holding my frame, and it says right under John Ludwick's new street frame from Versa. And I was like, this is unbelievable.
You still have one?
Yeah, I'm actually riding it now. It's like I went on to ride. The owner of that company buried the company. It's really kind of a tragic story, but he like made a bunch of real poor business decisions, and the company tanked itself. And it was like, really, out of all the companies I could be riding for and having a signature frame, it didn't even get a chance to get off the ground. But after riding for a few other frame companies after that, after 2010 when I stopped riding full time, I've since taken the bike apart from my last sponsor and rebuilt my signature frame. So I'm back on the frame that I designed from scratch now. So it's even though I'm like a washed up like old timer in the sport, because I haven't really ridden in 10 years. Like this is the first year I've really been back on my bike pretty aggressively. And it feels really cool to be on a bike that I designed myself.
That's awesome, bro.
It's fun.
You know, like I was saying before, that I'm getting back into skateboarding.
Yeah.
Probably about a year and a half where we've been back into it. And I feel it again, dude. I feel like a kid again, bro.
It never leaves your veins, man.
And now that I see the skateboarding community and I'll see some of the OGs, they're still skating and they're, 45 years old. I'm only 35 and I'm just like, I can't use that. I can't use that card. I can't use that old man card because like even Elisa Steamer, she's on Baker. She's 45.
I was going to say.
She's 45 years old and she's still going.
Wow.
And then now it's, you see like Tony Hawk still skates. Now his son skates and it's just like this isn't something like maybe our parents would have thought. It's like, that's what kids do. No, it's just because our Babe Ruths weren't Babe Ruths yet. They're still, it's still growing. It's still going.
It's a new age too. It's so crazy that 30 years ago, someone in their 50s wouldn't be doing something like that.
Yeah. Someone
in their 50s was nearing their retirement age.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy to think about because there's a lot of skaters and BMXers at the 50 mark that are still doing it. Mm-hmm. I met some dude that was in his mid 60s at the Louisville, Kentucky skate park 15 years ago. So literally an old guy with full pads and a helmet, and all he was doing was dropping in and carving around the bowls. That's because he was 63 or 4, something insane. And I remember being like, oh yeah, as long as you're careful and you go easy and you know your limits, you can do that as long as your body will allow you to.
Yeah. So the know your limits thing, that's a little hard for me.
Same. And that's what I try to be conscious about now, because now when I'm on my bike, the common sense factor is right in front of my eyes. I'm like, you idiot. I don't know why you did that before, but don't do it now. So, but it's crazy that you got into it as well. Cause we've kind of been, on the same wavelength unbeknownst to each other because it's the same deal. It's I've almost rediscovered it. And it's crazy because it inspired a lot of my friends who also gave it up to pick it back up. Because this has been a weird year. Even my business slowed down significantly. And I knew if I wanted to stay healthy, I needed to be outside. I shouldn't be in my house. So my good friend Corey, who travels with me a lot, you'll see him a lot on the YouTube and my Instagram and stuff. He grew up riding motocross, but we were in England a couple years ago and we went to a couple concrete skate parks with some friends that rode BMX. And Corey was like, man, I think I want to buy a BMX bike when I go home. And this was a couple years ago. And I said, dude, if you buy a BMX bike, I'm going to dust my bike off and we're going to get back to riding.
Hell yeah.
So we did. And now this year we rode every weekend this year. I learned new tricks this year. Tricks that I never learned before.
Cool.
Yeah. Dude. I finally, I stretch every morning, stretch every night. I take care of my body more now. I'm in better shape now, with the exception of the aches and pains, arthritis, the broken bones, all the injuries are still lingering. I'm in relative pain every day just because of how bad I've beat my body up. But overall health, I eat better. I don't go to the gym, but I do morning calisthenics in the house at morning and night. I stretch all the time. I drink way more water than I used to. It was a liter of soda and Taco Bell and just go Go send it. I'm like, how? I think of my insides, and I'm like, how did everything agree that this was okay? I somehow got out of it without diabetes, without a heart attack. Oh my gosh, without having to get my foot amputated because I had diabetes riddled.
Dude, things in the 90s were different back then.
Oh, crazy. But I mean, we'd be on a BMX trip. There'd be like 20 of us in a 15-passenger van with $20 to each of us for a week trip, and we were eating like $3 Taco Bell. Man. Oh my gosh.
So since you're from New Hampshire, did you ever cross paths with Adam 22?
Yes. Yeah, so Adam's from Nashville.
Okay, how far is that from you?
Like an hour or so. Yeah, Nashville's down near the Mass border. And I don't remember if we originally met through the music industry, but we were both, like, I was playing music. I was in a couple hardcore bands, and then I turned into like my indie rock project and kind of got out of the hardcore realm, although a lot of my friends stayed there. Boston's right next door, so Boston had a huge hardcore scene. Still does, but like back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, that's what was going on. And so Adam was around the hardcore scene and the music scene, but he rode BMX, and so I knew Adam just through BMX at the before the come up, before the message board, before all that stuff, because he was just another dude on that BMX board forum I was telling you about earlier. And then he started his own thing, and then the come up got big because it was like a newer version of BMX board, and that's where everybody started hanging out.
Got you.
And I might be wrong, but it may have just been a fluke. It's like he just started his own message board, like blog forum for BMXers to hang out, and everybody just liked the layout better than BMX board, so everybody just went there. And then that turned into, I might have this timeline wrong because I haven't seen Adam in years, but I know what he's up to, but just from other friends who still know him. But then it turned into like OSS, which was like his BMX shop when he moved out to LA. And so then he had like an actual BMX shop that was tied to the come up, and then he started the podcast.
Yes.
And then I think it was just the OSS or the come up podcast at the beginning. And then it turned into No Jumper. Yeah. And then became like this weird, like I never would have expected it to go off the rails down this like SoundCloud rapper like feature thing or whatever. I don't really listen to too much of it, but I know it's
going in a weird area right now. I've been following Adam for probably about the last 4 years, and he's kind of my motivation that shows me that there's an actual lane there. I never would have, if you had told me, even once the come up got big, and I was still riding professionally when the come up got big, so I was kind of like, I had my finger on that pulse basically. But if you had even told me then, like back when Adam was starting to like do a lot of big things with the come up, one of these days he's gonna have a huge podcast, millions of followers or whatever, interviewing like rappers or whatever that generation or genre of rappers are. I'm like, no, he's like a hardcore kid. Why would he like do that? But he found that lane, and it's clearly paying dividends or whatever you want to call it. Like it's. Well, with you saying that, with the message board, and then him. It just seems like he's able to see opportunities and just capitalize on them. Yep,
and then that might even be chalked up to being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
or just some like branch off thing that's you don't know what's going to happen, but maybe it was all calculated. But sometimes it seems like some things just morph into their own thing on their own.
I'd love to have him on the podcast and pick his brain one day, because I think that what he did is fascinating, dude. I just put myself in his situation. Okay, the BMX community is probably not as big as the automotive community.
Right.
So if I have my pulse on the automotive community, I think that I can kind of do the same sort of thing, have higher profile. I don't want to have SoundCloud rappers or anything. I wouldn't mind it, but it's just like have higher profile guests.
Yeah.
That's what it shows me, is that somebody from our generation who understands like how things were before and how they are now, and kind of just cooked it together. And now he's just interviewing like A-list celebrities and artists and things like that. Like I would love to sit down with people that I admire and just pick their brain.
Right, exactly.
And that's what he seems like he's able to do, and that is so awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy where it all started. Because I remember, we weren't real close friends. I mean, but we went on BMX trips and stuff, and like we obviously knew each other because we were both New Hampshire kids. But yeah, it's crazy that's where that road took him.
Yeah, and shout out to him, man. His baby's supposed to be dropping shit any second now.
A baby?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his girl, she's about like 2 weeks after her date.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
it's about to come.
Early congratulations. Then.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Adam in, oh my gosh. I think it might have been like a Boston session. I think he was back. It might have been after he moved to LA and he was back visiting friends or family or both or whatever. And, man, it was probably 2008 or 2009. Maybe it was before he moved to California. But yeah, it might have been, it's been 10 years easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like a Boston session, a whole bunch of the Boston kids and Adam was there. And, yeah.
Good deal,
It's been
man.
a long time.
Hell yeah, bro. There's so many possibilities out there.
It's wild. It's literally wild when you think about it. Because then someone will do something and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
And then you start racking your brain about like, what's next? What can I think of?
Yeah.
You know? And then when someone figures it out, it's like, well, duh. You know?
Hell yeah. John, you're a natural, bro.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that because I don't think I'm always racking my brain. I'm like, what am I doing?
No, you're a
like,
professional,
what are we doing? But I think that's what it takes. I think it takes like being self-critical to a point, not to the point of like self-destruction, but being self-critical and like always keeping yourself on your toes. Cause I'm always like questioning, like, is that the right move? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this to the best of my ability? Is this a waste of time or should I stick it out? And if it's inspiring, even just Jimmy, we might as well do it for Jimmy.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Jimmy, bro. He's keeping us going.
All the Jimmys out there. All the Jimmys out there keep me going.
Well, man, bro, it's so good to talk to you, dude.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's definitely keep in touch. I want to check out your business too, because that seems like something that I can use your services here for sure.
When you were showing me the hardware room right there and your invoices laid out, I saw your logo and the first thing I thought, I was like, dang, leather key rings. Those are going to look awesome. Because the way your logo was shaped, I was like, so I didn't want to shout it out on the podcast, but I was like, after this, like, I wanted to show you some stuff.
So if somebody wanted to get stuff made by you, what is usually the process for that?
So really, I don't have a website. Really, all I use is the Instagram page, and that's Night Lazer with a Z. Just Night Lazer with a Z. My personal Instagram, people reach out to me a lot there only because they, whether or not we're just close friends and they just communicate with me on my personal one, they'll, sometimes reach out there. But the Night Lazer one is like the actual business.
Okay.
Instagram
Got you.
page,
But if they want to follow you and everything that you're doing, and you're doing a lot, bro, where could they follow you at?
Doesn't it seem like, do you ever feel stretched thin? Like,
yeah.
You're like, am I doing
every
too
day.
much? Yeah.
Every single day.
I'm trying to figure out if I should like cut some things loose and like focus on lesser things, but
I think you just got to stick it out, and then you'll know the plate grows, and you're I got a little more wiggle room.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for. Maybe there's some stuff that I should just cut out and take a breath.
The last 5 years in a row, and I'm not too stickler to like New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
But whenever anyone asks me like, "Hey, what's your New Year's resolution this year?" I said to manage my time better.
I love it.
Every year. Because every year I feel like it's a rat race. April 15th is coming up. I haven't even started doing my taxes. I am not a professional. I don't know what I'm doing. It's a circus. It's a 24/7 circus. I wouldn't trade it for anything. If I would trade it for anything, it would be, I wouldn't even want to jump ahead 5 years. I'd want to earn that journey, but I'd like to know, like, is all that gonna, like, am I gonna take a few steps back? Am I making the right decisions? Am I paying attention? But
I think time management would cover everything, man.
I think it helps. Yeah, I think it helps. For me, it always seems like a rat race. And so it's hard for me to be like, okay, Mondays I do this, Tuesdays I do that. Because then a job will come in Saturday night, and I live in a small town, so I don't have like a huge social life. That's why I travel a lot. That's my social life. And so like if someone emails me on like a Saturday night and they're like, yeah, let's go for it. Like I'll go downstairs and turn my machine on. Like Saturday night, let's go work all Sunday. And then but that means maybe Monday I can run some errands and I don't have to like be hooked to the shop, so it's a rat race rather than being like my dad, he owned his own automotive repair shop and he owned a towing company, and he's as military grade, like time, like budgeter there is. And he's like, what you need to do is you need to allocate this time for that time for that. And I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're telling me, but it's not going to happen that way. Like I'm just going to be a bull in a china shop and whatever gets done. I've got 4-foot, 48-inch dry erase boards in every room of my house. I've got one in my kitchen. So I could be like doing the dishes, being like, do that. It's the worst. But I mean, to answer your question, if anyone's hanging on, waiting for social, it's not about the self-promotion. It's about wondering if I'm doing any of this right or not, because it's just a whirlwind.
One somebody told me one time, he said, the faster you run, the quicker you're gonna run out of breath. It's not a marathon.
Slow and
it's a
steady
race.
wins the race.
Slow and steady, man.
It really does.
Just take it day by day, and that's what I try to do. You know, whatever has to happen next week, I'm not worried about that right now.
Right.
I'm worried about today.
Yep.
And tomorrow.
Yep.
And whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yeah, that's it.
know?
I mean, I think if you can leave people with anything, it's to just relax and focus.
John could wait. John could wait a little while for a podcast or something. Dude.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
That's the thing because like, yeah, I'm like a month out from not having one, and I gotta tell you the idea. Of what I just got done in Ocean City.
Yeah.
So the Toyota Century, long wheelbase, highest end flagship car that Toyota ever made. I started a mini podcast series called The Podcast of the Century.
Oh, no way.
And I held mini podcast shorts in the back of my Century.
Wow.
So Anthony Purcell, Halcyon, helped me film a cinematic intro to this mini podcast series. And I'm writing and recording my own synthwave soundtrack to the intro. And I've never written synthwave music before, so it's been kicking my rear end like real bad.
Yeah.
So before I even left on this trip, I was telling Anthony, I'm like, we might just have to use a bit for it. And he was kind of like, it's up to you, but you should probably write it because you've been blowing a lot of smoke saying that it's going to be an organic, like you're writing the music. But in Ocean City, Anthony shot lots of detail shots and rollers down the strip that we're going to use as like the same intro for all of the mini series.
Got you.
And so I set up my boom arms, everything in the car, like everything's all like hidden away and used wide angle cameras. So like we're sitting in the car and I did podcast shorts. So it's not like a 2 hour long drawn out thing. It's like 15 to 30 minute long podcast shorts. But yeah, Anthony helped me shoot that. So we're on the subject of biting off more than you can chew. That's why I haven't put out a podcast episode in a month, because I've been like frantically trying to grind to get the Podcast of the Century like shorts out. But the Instagram handles of the two things, my personal one is just John.Ludwick. So it's JOHN.
We'll have it below, guys.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, of course.
Then the Governor's Club is just the Governor's Club spelt out. That's my automotive brand that, we do pop-up meets and like limited like shirt drops with Night Lazer. That talk about the umbrella with Night Lazer. I make all my own hard goods. So I do like any like wooden laser engraved rearview mirror hangers or cup coasters or the leather key rings, or I do all that stuff myself, but release it with Governor's Club exclusive
Very cool
stuff. So I can keep everything in house. So anyone that knows me and knows the Governor's Club or Night Lazer, they know that like all the hard goods, with the exception of like the print soft goods, I make in house and I make myself. It's all hand curated and all that. And then the music page, since you brought it up, is The Rising Sea. Is the name of my my music project.
I love it, bro.
Dude, thank you for having me on, man.
Of course, man. This was an awesome conversation, man.
And dude, like I said, man, the drive out here to Ventura from San Fernando was just a treat. So it was an awesome drive out here. And
John, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
brother.
man. Thank you for having me on. This was awesome.
Of course, bro. And thank you guys for listening, man. Once again, this is Downtime with Downstar, episode 216, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.